I was planting the seeds, nurturing them, whatever that relates to. And then all of a sudden, because people buy when they're ready to buy, not because you need a client and you need to pay your rent, right? So all of a sudden, all those relationships I'd been nurturing for 12 months started happening, and ended up growing a successful first business. But if I had given up at 7 months, 9 months, what if I gave up at 11 months?
Are you looking to improve your sales skills without compromising your values? Welcome to Sales Made Easy, a podcast for business and personal growth. Join Harry Spaight, author of Selling with Dignity, your formula for life-changing sales results, as he hosts sales experts and business owners who share their journeys of personal growth and business success without resorting to pushy sales tactics. Now, here's your host, Harry.
We are going to talk entrepreneurship with the one and only Captain Jim Palmer, the Dream Business Coach. Jim and I met recently, and Jim has lived a pretty interesting life. In the last bit of it, he has been journeying on a boat, living the life as a captain. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that. But Jim is a business coach. He helps people to grow their business. Obviously, he helps with a mindset and a ton of different things. So we're going to talk about that today. So Jim, welcome to the Sales Made Easy podcast. What's the good word?
Great to connect with you, Harry. I love doing these interviews, and I like seeing people sometimes stumble over my ridiculous introduction. You know how they go. And
I do.
And I'm not going to be one of the people who goes, "Oh, that's so nice of you to say that," because we wrote the words for our introduction. But you're right. It was such a pleasure to meet you, and I meet an awful lot of people on my own podcast, of which you're going to be a guest of mine next week as we're doing this, and we really hit it off. So I'm excited for the introduction and to share with your audience.
Yes, me too. So for those of I should have like a bloopers because I totally butchered the introduction earlier. So we just did a do-over, which I just said I'll speak from the heart because that's really my best. All right, so we're going to talk about a couple of things here we were chatting about. One was mindset and having skin in the game. I think there's a number of people out there who are looking to grow their business as an entrepreneur, maybe even to get started, but don't necessarily want to put skin in the game. So let's start there. What's the value of putting skin in the game and putting things on the line here to grow a business?
I mean, being an entrepreneur today is nothing more than building a website. You can get business cards for free at Vistaprint. You can do so much and call yourself a business owner. But unless you're generating revenue, possibly supporting a family or a staff or whatever that looks like, there's really very little risk compared to, we'll call it yesteryear. A lot of the people that I work with are, we'll say, middle age or on their second half, so to speak. They've worked a corporate job, Harry, for a while, and they want to do something else. And they've created a pretty nice standard of living. Let's say they got one house, 2.3 kids, however that works, 2 cars in the garage. Maybe they have a summer home and a boat, but I'm going to be an entrepreneur now. But I'm not going to disturb what I have now. I'm not going to let my dream of being a business owner interrupt the lifestyle of my family. Unless you're like wealthy and you got a lot of money, set aside, it's a recipe for disaster. A lot of times, in the last, I was doing a speech about, I'm going to say 6-7 years ago, and the person before me was referencing balance of life or life balance. How do you balance life as an entrepreneur? And I said, no disrespect. I mean, that's a worthy goal, is to have a balanced lifestyle. I said, but let me give you what I'm talking about as far as being committed to growing your business. So let's say you're 5 years in, 2 years in, and you've been trying to get this new client, and you've been nurturing this relationship for a while, and it's Thursday evening, it's 5:00, you're getting ready to go home, and the phone rings, and it's this person. He says, "Hey, Jim, it's John. I just flew in from San Diego. I didn't tell you initially because I was going to fly right out, but my plane got canceled. I got to stay here overnight, fly out in the morning. Would you like to have dinner and tell me about your company? I know you've been after me for a while. What are you going to do?" "Sorry, John, I got to go to my ballerina recital or my t-ball game." No offense to both of those, are great things, but to me, I would have to take that gig. I don't know if that makes me whatever you want to call me, but That's a game changer. And that's just an example. Other people say, oh, I'm going to put in $10,000 and see what happens. Well, okay. 3 years down the road, you're at $9,999, and you've got an opportunity to maybe exhibit somewhere where you're going to be in front of a lot of prospective clients. What are you going to do? Are you going to put it on a credit card, or what are you going to do? So people have they set these parameters. And I realize a little voice in my head said, you're going way long on question number one, but they have these parameters, whether it's about courage, money invested, what kind of change you're willing to make in order to have that dream business. Harry, I know John was my fictitious story there. Harry, I know you've heard the expression that, to the effect that you're willing to put skin in the game and accept risk and change and work for a certain period of time at a very intense level so you can live a wonderful life after that. So a lot of people don't want to go through that whole. It's like if you're a doctor, a lot of people may get a 2-year degree, 4-year degree. Doctors, I think they go to school for like 9 years, 11 years, whatever. And people accept the fact that I'm going to be a doctor. There's that whole period of school, training, internship, enormous debt, but then they get the lead of usually a pretty nice life. Well, why is it different if you're an entrepreneur who does copywriting or sales training or coaching? Why aren't you going to go through the crap? So sorry, that's question one. Very long answer.
Oh my goodness. We have time for 2 more questions, apparently. No, it's a great answer. I love it. I mean, it's like the time limit too. It's like, I'll give this 6 months or whatever, some ridiculous time frame. And there's listening, find a musician, find a small business that's successful, see the number of years that they put in for their overnight success. If it was only 6 months, man, there wouldn't be anywhere near as many failed businesses.
That's right.
After 5 years, right?
I mean, part of my backstory, which is now all these years later, my folklore, I guess, is my entire first year was revenue free. That's my fun way of saying it took me a year to get my first paying client. Well, what did I do? After month 1, month 2, well, it's a little longer than I thought. 6 months in, this kind of sucks, but do I give up now? I kept saying to myself, how ridiculous would it be for me to quit now after putting in 6 months? My first client's right around the corner. By month 11, I'm a little desperate. I actually took a couple part-time jobs like at night and stuff, so it wouldn't interrupt my ability to go knock on doors and get customers. But I did whatever I could do to support myself until my first client, then the second. And it really happened, in month 12 and then 13, it started growing. And that to me, I look at that now with the clear eyes of hindsight, the clear vision, I should say. I was a farmer. I was prepping the field. I was planting the seeds, nurturing them, whatever that relates to. And then all of a sudden, because people buy when they're ready to buy, not because you need a client and you need to pay your rent, right? So all of a sudden, all those relationships I'd been nurturing for 12 months started happening and ended up growing a successful first business. But if I had given up at 7 months, 9 months, what if I gave up at 11 months? And I go get a job, and then the big chamber of commerce, hey, Jim, we want you to do a newsletter for us. That would have been horrific.
Right. Yes. And, if you think about that, as far as getting the job, you just don't know when. It's like I compare it in the book to just going on a hike and you're looking for this beautiful view and you climb the mountain and then you just get tired. It's like, I can't go any further. And then you meet someone that's coming down and they say it's just around the corner. And they give you that little oomph to just pick it up so that you keep going. But in this, there is no one really knows. It's just like, you got to have faith that you keep doing the right things and having conversations and doing the activity. Thoughts?
That's true. It's like that. As a matter of fact, my wife and I went on vacation up around the Great Lakes, and we were on Mackinac Island in northern Michigan. And riding our bikes around the island. Then everybody pulls over and you hike up this thing. Well, my God, I was already getting pooped halfway up this pretty steep climb. So to me, I'm like, is it worth it? Are we almost there? Is there an open bar up there? I just like chit chatting with the people. Couple of people go, you got miles to go. Somebody else says it's worth it. Keep going. So, but those conversations, by the way, can come from being in a mastermind group or some sort of, being an entrepreneur can be very lonely. So you need to surround yourself with other people, and hopefully other people who are further ahead than you are, because, you can be pulled ahead with their experience and words of encouragement and things to look out for.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yes, you and I are so alike on that. I'd be on a hike and I'd be saying, is the 7-Eleven right around the corner or
Yeah.
something? People look at me as like totally disgusted. So
Yeah.
yeah, but that's my sense of humor. But yes, so the mastermind, let's just talk about that. What, for those who don't know, so share what is a mastermind for those who don't know.
Mastermind is a group of people. In the entrepreneur space, there's masterminds, which could be all the same people. A friend of mine runs a mastermind for jewelers. So it's all jewelers. I run a dream business mastermind, which has men, women, online, offline, every different niche, everybody from beginners to my largest client was doing $34 million, everything in between, because we can all learn from each other. We can encourage each other, bring somebody along. Sometimes somebody who's very seasoned can learn something from somebody who's very, let's just call it naive. Like, hey, did you ever think of this? Because they don't know any better. So they blurt it out. It's a great idea. So a mastermind is a collection of people all kind of pulling for each other, but sharing. It wasn't Jim Rohn. It was the man who wrote Think and Grow Rich. Name escapes me at the moment.
Napoleon Hill.
There you go. Napoleon Hill. You're the collection. You're going to be the average of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. That actually might have been Jim Rohn.
That's Jim Rohn.
I've
got all my old guy quotes down.
There you go. But a mastermind is, I mean, I joined my first mastermind and I was still very cash poor in the early days. It was $400 a month. But I knew, here's what I did know. I knew I have an intense work ethic. I'm in this to win it. And I figured if I can get an idea or two from some other smart people, I would implement the heck out of it. In third month, I was earning more than $400 additional revenue in my business to pay for the mastermind. It was actually, I had my second business was called No Hassle Newsletter. Somebody said, what about No Hassle social media? I'm simplifying it, but they said, what if you took all the content you're creating over here and did a little bit of spin and do something for social media? I mean, this goes back like 2010. So I had a program called No Hassle Social Media. I ran it for 5 years, over 6 figures. Social media changed, so I kind of let it morph. But that came from a mastermind. And people are like, oh, I get masterminding, but I'm just I'm in a non-paid version. Well, I guarantee you, if you're in a non-paid, we'll call it a mastermind. It's more like maybe an accountability group or something like that. And you come together every month. Somebody's got an important sales meeting. Boom, they're going to the sales meeting. You say, well, they are. But if there's no investment, no skin, here we are, we're skin in the game again. But if you got skin in the game, I don't rule with an iron fist, far from it, but I do say you're going to get out of this what you put into it. So if you come to our mastermind meetings only when you need something and then disappear, I usually have a polite conversation off the air, so to speak. But people will come and support each other, and it's that encouragement that is often a very, very big difference maker.
Yeah, I like it. So if you have a large group, how many people are typically in a mastermind that you run?
I have 27 right now.
Okay.
I've had 36 was the largest. And, I've had as small as 20. It's okay because most of the people that work with me I do one-on-one calls with them and coach them privately. And then I host a group call every month. And on average, I get maybe 14 to 20 people that come to a group call, but not everybody speaks up. Some people are just listening while they're working. Some people, and I'm okay with that. Initially, when I started the group in 2009, I'm like, this person hasn't been on in a while, and this person doesn't speak up. This person's always listening. And then when I'm talking to them privately, Jim, I just get so much out of those calls. I said, you ought to speak up. Nah, I'm just not that. And I'm okay with that. It's like Everybody's different. But if this person contributes, we have a private Facebook group. If somebody says, hey, what's a good resource for this? And that quiet person usually says, oh, you want to go here. This is what I use. I'm okay with that.
Right. Okay. So you've got the master. So basically your business is, if you could describe it, is that you're coaching people one-on-one, and then the mastermind is for those individuals. And
that's my main business today. That's what has afforded me the lifestyle to travel for 5 years on that beautiful boat over my head right there.
Nice.
Called it Floating Home.
Yeah.
And when my wife left her job, which was pretty stressful in as long as I had good Wi-Fi, which was my challenge on the boat, I had all these hot spots and stuff. So I keep working. But at the time I had 5 different online businesses. I'm down to 3 right now, but my coaching business is my main revenue. I've been working 3 days a week for 7 years now. just figured out a way to structure that business. So Tuesday,
Right.
Wednesday, Thursday, I'm doing all my calls. And then, Friday through Monday, if we're on the boat, we could be traveling and park myself Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday and do my work.
Great. Well, good for you. You're living the dream. And a lot of people think, well, they can get started and just work 3 days a week. What would you say to them?
Some people might be able to do that. I don't think many people start at ground zero. But I did have a client, interestingly enough, he was a HVAC guy, grew a very successful business, and then he joined my program because he wanted me to show him how to run a group training program. And I showed him how to do that. He sold his main business and ran his coaching business for 5 years and sold that for a ton of money. Now he lives on the beach in New Jersey. But he got going pretty quickly. But then again, he had a very successful track record. In other words, in Dan Kennedy world, he had a herd, which means your community, your followers, your fans, etc. So he had a bunch of people that that wanted to be in his coaching program. If somebody's starting a coaching program today, you're going to be working a lot more than 3 days a week for a while, until you build up momentum. When I started in 2009, my program was either $97 a month or $197 a month. I have programs now at $500 a month, $1,800 a month, and $2,500 a month. So I didn't start there. I mean, it's pretty rare if you're going to do that, unless you've got an enormous track record with a long, very good list of followers, fans, etc.
Yeah, exactly. And so what would be your suggestion for people to get the fans? What are some of the things that they can be doing? I know you do them.
Well, it's all about your very attractive brand and what I call very, very creative and bold marketing, right? So there's two things you can do. You can go out and acquire the skills and the experience to be the best at what you do, or you could have a decent skill set, but you then acquire the skills on how to be known as the best at what you do. See, I never went to school. I don't even have a college degree. I almost had a college degree, but I decided to go to work and get married and have kids. But so I never went to school for desktop publishing or writing or, things like that. But in 2001, I started my first business writing and designing newsletters for companies. I had done that in my prior jobs and I was pretty good at it. But I would consider myself a hack at desktop publishing and design, but I created some templates that absolutely work. When I created No Hassle newsletters, I've had over 1,200 small business owners paying me monthly to use those. And there's a lot of reasons for that success, but I anointed myself or branded myself the newsletter guru. People thought, well, he's the newsletter guru. He must be the best, right? Forget John, who's got 6 years of Photoshop and Illustrator and this, that. Jim's just a hack, but Jim's a great marketer. So I grew a very successful business. Well, twice in the newsletter business. So you want to have a very, very good brand and then market it, using what I call my $1 million platform. And it's many different things, Harry, as you know. So you got a great website. It's very robust blog because blog makes it SEO friendly if you write your blogs correctly. You should have a podcast. You should be a guest on podcasts. You should be doing videos. I did videos every week for 5 years, starting in 2009 when that little Kodak flip camera came out for like $100.
Wow.
That was the game changer. Before then, you needed $3,500 to shoot a video, not anymore.
Right. Yeah.
So I only missed 2 weeks in 5 years. I started my own podcast almost 6 years ago, I think getting close to 600 episodes. I've written, now 7 books, 6 books that are framed, and then my new book, which you know about, called Serve First, published about a month ago. So being an author, I learned how to be a speaker, which was my lifelong fear. I mean, I almost didn't graduate high school because I wouldn't get up in history class and read out of the history book. I'd be sick that day.
Oh my goodness.
But everybody had to read. So I don't know. It was, and I even grew a pretty good career figuring out how to do my job and avoid speaking in front of groups. But then when I became an entrepreneur, and especially when I started writing books, it became painfully obvious I need to solve that. So I did solve it, did a bunch of things. I won't bore you with all that. but I turned into a very good speaker. I did like 34 gigs in about 13 months that brought in, I don't mind saying this, over $1 million in coaching, because I was out there on different stages, not saying, hey, buy my coaching, I'm really smart, but by doing conversations, almost like we're doing now, sharing, this is what I know, this is what I know how to do, here's some experience I have, and that makes you attractive to people. I used to tell people, if they say I'm not a good speaker, I said, you almost have to really try to suck enough to take away the power you get by being either in the front of the room or on the stage. And if you're an author, your book has to really stink to lose the credibility you have just by being an author. But if you're an author and you're speaking on the stage, you've got credibility that very few people have. And if you do learn how to be a good speaker, you're going to grow a very successful business. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's really great. When it comes to writing a book, you've written 7, but I think a lot of people are intimidated by the idea of writing a book. Does the book need to be like War and Peace? And a number of, so they go by number of words, not by the number of chapters. I used to think, well, I only got so and so number of chapters, and someone said, well, it's the word count that matters. But what's your thought on word count and the size of the book?
I rarely disagree with a host, but it's not quite the word count or the page count. It's if somebody's going to read it, we've all read page turners. I used to read like James Patterson and other like novels, CIA type stuff. It's very engrossing. It's like, God, it's 11:30 at night, but I want to read one more chapter. That type of book.
Yeah. Okay.
So when I started writing, my first book was like a little over 200 pages. My latest book, I gotta get it right here. My latest book, Serve First, is 50 pages.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
Somebody can read this in one sitting.
Yeah.
Very important lesson. The last 6 books that I've helped my own mastermind members write for their business were in the 50 to 70 page range. Well, how do you like tell your whole story? This isn't about your life story. This is about, again, this is who I am. This is what I can do. This is how I've helped other people. This is what you should do in your business. By the way, I invite you to see if I could help you do that. That's the message in a 50 to 60 page book. And if you look at a lot of books today, the whole reason to write a book like that, in my opinion, with somewhere between 50 to 70 pages, is that's enough to tell a story, to get people to want to know more, and to at least make a phone call or shoot you an email. Hey, I just read your book. Seems like you got some experience here. This is my story. This is my challenge. Do you think you can help me? If you write a 400, 200 word, 200 page book, they're not going to read the whole thing. First of all, right. I learned firsthand when I could barely afford it, I hired an expensive editor with my first book, Magic Newsletter Marketing. They said, Jim, it's a good book, but it needs to be completely reorganized. I said, what do you mean? I kind of went from soup to nuts about how to write and design. And they said, nobody gets through the first 1/3 of most books. Think about that. I said, yeah, that's interesting. If I'm reading business books and I get 1 or 2 nuggets, I'm like, okay, I got enough of this book. Let me get on to the next book in my to be read pile, right? So you have to put the good stuff or the hook up front, and you can put more in there. When you write a 50 page book, you work really hard. It's almost all good stuff. Like, I'll use Twitter, for example, which is kind of like a cesspool right now. But in the early days in Twitter, I forget if it was 40 or 60 characters or 30. But I would take a message that I was putting on other social media, and I'd try and put it in Twitter too long. Cut this, cut this, cut this. It really forced me to give a very succinct message with as few words as possible. I never forgot that. And with some of my clients today, they say, Jim, what do you think about this for a headline? What I'll say to them is every word is worth $500. So if that word on the second line is worth $500, leave it in. Well, I can live without that one. So you start peeling it back to the very essence of a great headline. Same thing with a book. You peel it back to the very essence of what's most important. What do you want your prospective customer to know? And believe me, it doesn't start with, I was born June 14th, 1950. I then went to high school, and then I got into drugs. I ended up living under a bridge, but then a gentleman came by and showed me how to do this. Next thing you know, I'm making millions of dollars, and this is how I can show you how to do it. That book that's not the book you want to write.
Oh, I think we're on the same page. This, yeah, is so good. The idea is, so I wrote a book not really knowing what I was going to do with the book. But the next book I write, I think I'm going to do exactly what you just described, because there's just the idea of the thought of writing a book for the sake of writing a book does not appeal to me.
Well, see that, but that's what a lot of people, entrepreneurs, I'm just going to stay in our world.
Yeah.
They want to do that because they know they should write a book. Well, let me check that box off. It's kind of like putting on your, or becoming a speaker. You can become a speaker and work towards an elegant speech that gets you a standing ovation, or you can give a very good speech that leads people to rush the back of the room, say, I want to buy your stuff. I'm not all about ego and gratification of a standing ovation, which fades by the time you hit your first traffic jam on the way home. I learned how to speak what's called sell from the stage. I can give a speech which doesn't say, it doesn't like hit them over the head like Ginsu knives here, get 2 for 1 or anything. But I can give a speech which will have people like, wow, that was great. How do I work with you? That's a different kind of speech. That's what I learned how to perfect. But that's the message in the book. I'll give you a quick example. One of my clients, he actually passed away last year. He was a chiropractor, and he didn't just like do, the $75 adjustments. He had this machine. It cost him like $1 million or a couple $100,000, which is pretty good spread, I think. But it helped stretch the spine, not like with machines, but just with gravity. And it's amazing how so many of the nerves that go through there were relieved, and it released pain, etc. But the cost of the machine, and it took about 12 or 15 visits. So the price for this service was about $5,000. Okay. That's the investment. A lot of people would say, I don't have it. I want the blah, blah, blah. So I helped him write a book. And just like I would coach him on how to talk to patients when they say, I can't afford it. A lot of chiropractors might say, it's worth it though. Isn't it worth it to be pain-free? No. What I would say, what I taught him in the sales capacity, but also put in the book, it is a lot of money. I agree with you. Agree with them. Show empathy, but then say, this is why I think it's worthy of your investment. You got the grandkids. I'm sure you want to get on the floor and play with them and not get 2 people to help you off the ground. I'm sure you understand that you've been struggling in your job, you've told me, for 10 years. We can take care of this, right? And so I showed him how to do that. And in the book, we walked through this 5-step program, and each way we gave another reason this the program would be beneficial, but then we tied it in with a couple patient testimonials. Usually the first name with just the last letter because of, HIPAA or something. And we said, this is so, and boom. And so in about 60 pages, they fully understood how it works, why it works. And it was backed up, almost weaved through like a beautiful crochet. It was weaved through with these patient success stories. So by the end of it, it helps people over that hump. So he did a couple things. Actually, I'll give you one more quick example of why you want a book like that. So one of my current clients is she's a franchise recruiter. She's independent. So very much like a residential real estate person, she doesn't get paid unless she matches up somebody who wants a franchise business with somebody selling one. So we helped her write a book, a short book. We developed this whole strategy around how and why you want a franchise business. And so everybody that calls her office to talk with her gets mailed a copy of the book before they get on the phone. So somebody can talk to her assistant and get a little information. Say, I'm going to schedule you with Kate for next Tuesday. And boom, that book would go in the mail. And so they'd have that book. The other thing she's done, which I encourage her to do, is she took that book and mailed it to about 30 franchisors so they get to know who Kate Ross is. So now she's helping to educate both the franchise community and people interested in franchise why they want to work with her. So that's another reason you want to have a book like that. And again, the book was not Kate saying I was born in 19 whatever. Right. It was what this is what you want to look out for. These are some of the pitfalls of buying a franchise. These are some of the benefits of buying a franchise. And by the way, we will walk through and hold your hand every step of the way. Essentially, that's how her book is written.
Oh, yeah, that sounds great. Super helpful. All right. So the speaking, I mean, I find this really interesting. So I'm thinking about Toastmasters where people go, not that I'm speaking negatively of Toastmasters, but
Yeah.
this is different than Toastmasters, right? The type of speaking
Well,
where you're,
listen, I applaud people who go to Toastmasters. I went to a
yeah,
couple of meetings. I went through and paid back in the day. It was like $1,200 to go through the Dale Carnegie program, which is like 12 weeks. I did a lot of things, including hypnosis. I mean, I kicked my fear to the curb. And then I started my first speech. I was in front of 18 people. I've spoken in front of hundreds of doctors. But the thing is, when you go to Toastmasters, Dale Carnegie, or speak in front of the chamber, that's to build up your reservoir of courage, but it's also to try a few things out. It's like a comedian who might go to a small club and try out some new material because you don't want to fail in front of 400 doctors.
right,
Before I went
right.
in front of 400 doctors, I spent about a year and a half doing these other gigs and building up there. By the time I got in front of this gig with 400 doctors, I walked away with 60 grand after 1 hour from enough people wanting to buy my stuff, my
Yeah.
courses and my newsletter programs. But that you don't start there. So go to Toastmasters, go to all that stuff to learn how to be a good speaker. Just recognize if you're an entrepreneur who has courses, books, programs, whatever services you're selling, you can learn how to sell those from the platform, but it's a very different speech than you might learn at one of those organizations. So I applaud them. Just recognize one of my clients, in fact, I mentioned him earlier in the interview, Harry, he's a very successful jeweler. And he says, I'd always want to have a mastermind. So I helped him create a mastermind for jewelers. And he very proudly on one of his early calls to me said, yeah, I'm doing these gigs. They're actually paid. I get paid money to speak. I said, what do you get paid? He said, well, sometimes 500, 1,500, 2,000. Said it very proudly, but it's good.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I think you turn down the money from now on in exchange for being able to talk about your mastermind. I'm still going to deliver great content, but I have an opportunity. If you'd like to continue the education, talk to me afterwards about getting into my mastermind. This gentleman has over 58 members paying him $500 a month in his mastermind. So, he's way past $1,500 for
That's a nice chunk of change.
It is recurring revenue,
Right.
I might remind you.
Yeah.
But that's the kind of thing. I helped him develop a different presentation, which is still full of value, but it kind of skillfully weaves in there why people want to connect with you afterwards to continue the education.
Yeah. That's great. Do you recommend, I mean, is there one of your books if someone wants to be a better speaker, or is there something that you recommend for the entrepreneurs that are just beginning the journey, or the person who's thinking about becoming an entrepreneur, or someone who's relatively new and would like to go to another level? Do you have books for them?
I do have books. And actually, I don't have a book on speaking. I do have a speaking course. It's not inexpensive, but neither should it be because, but one thing I did, so I woke up one morning about 2 years ago and discovered my face was all white. And then I checked my birthday and I said, well, I'm really moving on here. And actually, I'm just kidding, all kidding aside. I interviewed a longtime friend and associate who wrote a book, and I interviewed him for my show. And one of the chapters was investing in your legacy, focusing on kind of what's next instead of just current business. And I started thinking about that. I'm 65 now, or 63 at the time. I'm really enjoying my lifestyle, living on the boat, working 3 days a week. And I really felt the Lord just tapping me and said, you're not going to slow down anymore. You've got a gift. You keep working with people and whatever. But I don't want to work more than 3 days a week. And I came up with this idea after thinking about it. What got me thinking about the legacy was my friend David's book, and I said, oh, I've got books. I think they happen to be pretty good books. So what I did, Harry, is I figured out a way to make the digital copies free. Somebody goes, well, that's not hard. It is. Amazon won't let you do it. I figured out a way. My books on Amazon in Kindle are $0. They're free. If you go to Barnes and Noble, which they're Nook books, they're free. My books are in the iBook store for free in digital. So you can download all of those 6 books, get quite the education. My new book, Serve First, is not there. I'm not going to go through all the steps that I went through initially I think I priced this at $5.99. This book will change your life, by the way.
Nice.
But if you're new, so my book, Decide, that's my mindset book. So that'll help create, or not create, but that'll help solve some of the crap you got in there, whether it's confidence, perfectionism, imposter syndrome. If you're dealing with money issues, which AKA means you're too cheap to invest in your business, you should read Decide. Stop Waiting for It to Get Easier came out right before that. And my latest book, Before Serve First, which is actually not framed because I wrote it when I was on the boat, those things were in storage, was called Just Say Yes. I thought I was done writing books, Harry, but as Stephanie and I got on this boat, having the only time I had experience in the ocean was when I think I was 10. My parents took me to Martha's Vineyard and I was on this big ferry. But here we are, we're 20 miles offshore in our 50-foot boat. And I'm like, humming. That's a pretty big wave over there. I don't see land anymore. But I felt like I had come alive with the accepting risk and doing things outside the box. Truth be told, the last 5-6 years, we've lived a very comfortable lifestyle. And now we put ourselves out there again. And it felt weird. Like my personal life, I'm now experiencing what risk and fear is like and overcoming that and figuring out solutions and stepping forward. And we did all of that. So I wrote this book called Just Say Yes, which is really that also is a somewhat short book. I think it's only 80 or 90 pages, but it's about, when you got an idea for a business or something else, or you're feeling like you're being called to do something and the little voice in your head is pulling you back into safe zone. I'm saying, just say yes, do it anyway, go for the ride and see what happens. That's kind of what we did, having no experience buying a boat like that. Not doing it just for the weekend. We sold our house and we moved on the boat and we started traveling. We did 12,000 miles in 5 years.
What was a crazy story for you in this journey?
Let's see. Should I tell the fire? No, that was too scary. So we would love to. We stayed in marinas a lot. We had an old dog for 4 of the 5 years. But one time we were sleeping on anchor. We were up off Long Island Sound on the way to New England. It was dead calm. We were expecting a beautiful evening, just very, very calm. When you're on a boat, you need to learn how to properly set your anchor, because if it drags, it's unbeknownst to you in the sleep. You're dragging in your sleep. You don't even know.
Yep.
Well, the anchor was set firmly, but it was the season when there's kind of like actually this summer, pop-up thunderstorms come raging up for 10 minutes or 20 minutes, thunder, lightning, 30-mile-an-hour winds, etc. Once I go to sleep, I'm pretty good. All of a sudden, we heard these voices. Hey, our boat was dragging. The current was heading out this way. The 30-knot winds were going in the same direction, caused my anchor to unseat, and our boat was going backwards. And the back of our boat was probably 100 yards from the front of these commercial fishing boats that were working at night with their big lights, getting ready to head out at 5 in the morning. And they were screaming to us. And Steph woke up, opened the back door. She goes, "Jim, we're going to hit the fishing boats."
Oh my God.
From a dead sleep, up one flight and then up another flight to the bridge, start the engines, hit forward gear to stop the backward momentum. But it's pitch dark, thundering and lightning. It's raining to beat the band. I stopped the momentum, but I'm looking, and it's pitch black except for the fishing boats with those giant halogens shining down in their nets and stuff. I said, "Steph, you got to go up and get the anchor up." I mean, she had to go up to the bow. She said, "What? It's lightning." I said, I cannot go forward. If I wrap the chain around the props and I don't know where it is, we're dead. Literally dead in the water or worse. Okay, she put on a life jacket. She went up there and thundering and lightning and brought up the anchor. And now I'm loose. So now I can go anywhere. And I'd kind of go a little bit and it'd be dark. And then the next crash of lightning and it would hit. And I could see, oh, there's the beach over there. And I would kind of stay in this area. And somehow I got turned around enough. And this is 100% a God moment. When I pulled in that day in that calm afternoon, I come into this channel, which has like big rocks on both sides. And we come in I forget what they call it, the inlet, right? And I looked to my left and there was it was the fuel dock where the commercial fishing boats get fuel. And they had these giant orange balls, kind of like the kids' ball you jump on. That was their fenders. I said, "Look at the size of those fenders." My fender's about this big. And And then we went on and anchored. And then all of a sudden I'm spinning around with the wave and the lightning. And the next crash of lightning, I catch my eye and I see a bunch of orange balls. She goes, what are we going to do? Should we reseat the anchor? I said, no, we're going to the fuel dock. But my boat in the wind, it was kind of tall and I'm getting blown around. I'm doing okay. I said, you got to get some lines ready. We don't have lines. We're on an anchor. Oh my God. My wife, God bless her, she's back up there getting lines ready on the cleats. And I had one, I'm kind of holding off until she's ready. And I knew I had one shot because the wind was blowing so strong and it was blowing me on the dock. So I knew if the boat came out here, the wind's going to go bam. If I come in too far, I'm going to miss the dock and it's going to be hard to back up in the wind and in the current. So I had one shot coming in very slowly and I kept metering and correcting course. So we came in about right here and boom, we hit the dock. And then, she was able to tie us off. And we literally sat down. We almost sat there just crying like, holy crap. I mean, could have been disaster. Oh my gosh, what a story.
Wow.
But then we woke up the next day, the sun was shining, the birds were chirping, you could hear the seagulls, and we finished our journey up to Rhode Island. And it was like, okay, I guess it wasn't that bad. But in the moment, it was 10 minutes of sheer terror. We were on the phone with the Coast Guard, not the phone, the radio with the Coast Guard. Floating home, are you okay? Yeah, we're going to this fuel dock. Do you know anything? Do you know if they're open? Sir, we don't know what fuel dock you're talking about. But they were monitoring to make sure, are you okay? Do you need anything? I said, well, right now we're floating. I'm trying to go to the fuel dock. We'll let you know. And then we called them, said, we're tied up at the fuel dock. We stayed there the night, even after the storm passed. We had a hard time going back to sleep, to be honest with you, but we set an alarm just in case for 5 a.m. because I did not want to be there when those fishing boats go out. I didn't know if they need to come in for fuel. Turns out they come in for fuel when they get back. So they're ready just to leave. But I said, I'm not going to be in the way of those big boats. These are the big boats or the big outriggers and stuff.
Yeah.
So at 5 a.m., Stephanie walked the dog, rubbed my eyes, started the engines, and we got going to Rhode Island. But that's why I wrote Just Say Yes, because, we lived an incredible life on that boat for 5 years.
That's amazing. Yeah. Tense. And you said, I don't want to tell the other story because that's too scary.
I'll make it very, very quick. We're in this tiny little town in North Carolina. I mean, a town with like 3,000 people max, maybe less. Cute little town. They put out a dock you can travel through because they hope you'll come in and go to the restaurants and stuff. Our boat took over the whole dock plus a little bit, but we're okay there. They wanted us there. And we woke up and Steph woke up in the middle of the night and goes, Jim, I smell smoke again from like dead sleep to holy crap. And I go up and there was smoke. I immediately start assessing and I surmised that it was electrical smoke. You could smell like hot plastic. We rehearsed this. So we had what's called a ditch bag, a waterproof bag that was either in our bedroom or if we go up to the bridge to drive, it went there. So it had passports, it had energy bars, it had a knife. It actually had one of those beacons. So if we sank in the middle of the ocean, they'd find us. That was our ditch bag. So she grabbed the ditch bag and the dog and went out the back door. She said, come on. I said, I'm going to find this. I promise you, if I see fire, I'll get off the boat. And one of our main air conditioner heater units, well, it's called a capacitor, but the thing melted down. The event was over, but it reeked of smoke. And once but Stephanie called 911. I'm telling you, this town is so small. Within 4 minutes, I used to say there was a dozen burly men on my boat with me in my shorts. And I knew they didn't think it was too much because I'm looking and I'm trying to find the source of the smoke. And they go, this is a hell of a nice boat. Didn't your brother-in-law have a boat like this? And I said, I think this is it, but I need one of you guys in a suit and official looking gear to say, yeah, we found it. So Stephanie will get back on the boat.
Oh my goodness.
Those are the two scariest moments in 5 years for sure.
Yeah. Well, we're glad you made it. And you got a lot more left in you to bring more gifts of service to others and make the world a better place. So
absolutely.
Just absolutely love the conversation.
Well, thanks, Harry. I was looking forward to being on your program. And, I'll say this. I shouldn't assume. I assume we're getting ready to wrap up or
I was thinking of that.
Well, we can keep going, but I'm looking at my clock. I do have another call, but you can choose to be the best at what you do skill wise, or you can choose to be known to be the best. Those are two different outcomes. I'm telling you, you will make significantly more money going the other way. And there's a way to say that is you will earn significantly more income for who you are and not what you do. Because what you do, whether you're an accountant, dentist, copywriter, sales trainer, whatever, there are 1,000 other people that do what you do. They're called alsos or others.
Right.
And the way that you're going to stand out and instead of being one of those 1,000 other people who are fishing in the same pond, everybody's got their hook out. The way you go from being the one who's fishing to the way who has fish jumping in the boat is when you become known and have a great brand. And you back up that brand with a book and a podcast and videos and a great website and learn how to be a speaker. And all those different things go into becoming the person who's hunted instead of the other 1,000 who are always out there hunting for their next sale.
Yeah, beautiful stuff. Thank you so much. And one last question. Where are people finding more of Captain Jim Palmer?
So my home base is getjimpalmer.com. Get Jim Palmer, because it turns out he's a former baseball player with the who's a underwear salesman.
Right.
But getjimpalmer.com. Everything kind of flows off of that. And since we spent the last 10 minutes talking about our boating lifestyle, our YouTube channel was Our Floating Home. And Stephanie did all the filming and editing. She's got several videos of our journey and our travels and experiences and stuff. So if anybody's curious, go look there.
Sounds like a blast. This has been a blast as well. So thanks again, Jim. We'll talk to you real soon.
Thanks, Harry.
Thank you for listening to Sales Made Easy. If you found value in our conversations, please subscribe and leave a review. Our goal is to provide practical strategies for growing your business while staying true to your values. Remember, success in sales is about serving your clients. Serve first, and the selling will follow. We'll be back soon with more insights and inspiration. Until then, keep serving and providing value to others. Good things will happen.